If you're following along, you should still be in Chapter 8, Camera Animation 02.max. We've just created and animated the dummy object. Now we need to create the camera in our scene. Right-click in the front viewport to activate the front viewport. We'll create our free camera in this viewport. Keep in mind that the camera is always created pointing away from the current view, which is why we don't want to create it in the top viewport. Otherwise, the camera would be pointing down and we'll have more work to do to place it. In the command panel, click Create, click on the Cameras category, click on the free camera. In the front viewport, we're just going to click just above the dummy object in our scene. Go ahead and click to create the camera. Be careful that you only click once, otherwise if you click a second time, you'll create a second camera. Now, we really don't know where this camera is in space, so we want to align it to the dummy object. Right-click in the top viewport to activate it. Make sure the camera is still selected, and click on the Align tool in the main toolbar. Click on the edge of the green dummy in the top viewport. That should open the Align Selection dialog box. In the dialog box, we want to align the X position and the Y position, pivot point to pivot point. We want the pivot points of the objects to align so that when they travel through space, they will stay synchronized with each other. The camera is now centered over the dummy at the elevation that we placed it at. Click OK to align the objects. Then we're going to need to rotate it in the top viewport. From the main toolbar, click the Select and Rotate button. Make sure you're using the Z-axis rotation restriction. That's the blue ring that shows up in the rotation gizmo. We're going to rotate the camera using the blue inner ring. Drag until the camera is aligned with the motion path. Here's the path, and the camera is now facing down the path. If I drag my frame slider, I see that the dummy object moves away, but my camera doesn't go with it. We now need to link the camera hierarchically as a child of the dummy object. We can do this in the top viewport as well. Make sure the camera is selected. That's going to become the child. In the main toolbar, click the Select and Link option. Click on the camera and drag with your left mouse button to the edge of the green dummy. You'll notice that the cursor changes again to indicate that you can link to this object. Release the mouse button and you should see the dummy flash once. That indicates that the link was successful. And now the camera is a child of the dummy. If we drag the time slider now, you'll see that the camera moves along with the dummy object. Right-click in the perspective viewport, which will activate it, and press C on the keyboard. This will change the view to the currently selected camera view. That gives us the view from the camera looking down the street. Play the animation by clicking the Play Animation button, and you'll see the camera move down the street. In the top viewport, zoom out a little bit, enough to be able to see the entire path along the road. Drag the time slider and pay attention to the camera. You'll notice that the camera is always looking in the same direction. It keeps its orientation as it travels down the path. This is where we need to place some animation in the scene. We have the camera animated and we're in the top viewport. Drag the time slider until the camera starts coming around the corner. Click the Auto Key button to activate Auto Key mode. From the main toolbar, click the Select and Rotate button. Now, rotate the camera so that it's looking down the path again. So we're going to rotate the camera until it's parallel to the path. Drag the frame slider a little bit further until the camera is around the bend, and rotate the camera again around the Z-axis until again it's parallel to the path. Click the Auto Key button and turn Auto Key off. Then go ahead and play the animation back. Right-click in the camera view and the animation will play in the camera view. You'll see that the camera now turns as it moves down the street. This rotation is independent of the forward motion. We have two levels of control going on with this camera. One for the forward motion of the camera, that's the dummy object, and we have another level of control for the rotation. Go ahead and stop the animation and press Ctrl+S to save the file.